The rush of adrenaline that coursed through Parker Schnabel's veins during those early days at the Elbow Cut was unlike anything he had experienced in his entire mining career. While he had taken calculated risks before, nothing compared to the sheer scale and intensity of this particular venture. From the moment his excavators pierced the untouched earth, it became clear that this was not just another claim. It was a game changer. Even the seasoned veterans on his crew, some of whom had worked with Parker since his teenage years, could hardly believe the volume and quality of gold being recovered. Day after day, sluice runs yielded remarkable results, with cleanouts revealing thick mats saturated with gold. The sluice boxes were running hot, packed with fine gold, pickers, and large nuggets that shimmered under the Yukon sun. It wasn't just luck. It was the culmination of Parker's relentless pursuit of excellence and his unwillingness to settle for mediocrity. As the scale of the strike became apparent, the energy on site shifted dramatically. Morale soared. Crews who had been battling mechanical breakdowns and grueling schedules were now energized by the incredible success. The long hours seemed more bearable, with each tray of gold concentrate weighing heavier than the last. Parker, usually intense and deeply focused, allowed himself rare moments of visible excitement, celebrating alongside his team as they smashed records week after week. His leadership during this critical period was notable, not just for the decisions he made, but for how he inspired and rallied his team under immense pressure. Despite the grueling pace, he maintained a hands-on approach, often jumping into the cabs of machines himself or monitoring the recovery process to ensure every ounce was accounted for. His obsession with efficiency paid off. He was minimizing loss, maximizing yield, and setting a new standard for gold mining in the region. The Elbow Cut's location, while initially seen as a major disadvantage, proved to be a hidden strength. Its remote placement had dissuaded other miners for years, allowing its riches to remain undisturbed. The geological formation underneath the site was unique, an ancient channel of glacial runoff layered with dense concentrations of gold that had been deposited over millennia. Parker's investment in cutting-edge geological surveys and deep-core drilling before committing to full production had given him an edge. The data showed a staggering continuity of gold-rich gravels, stretching deeper and wider than anyone had anticipated. Every foot of ground turned over seemed to reveal yet another dense pocket of pay dirt. As word of the discovery spread among other miners and enthusiasts, speculation swirled that Parker had tapped into what could potentially be one of the richest single claims ever seen in the Gold Rush franchise. Financially, the implications were massive. At current gold prices, Parker's monthly haul was translating into multi-million-dollar returns, enough not only to offset the astronomical costs of the operation, but to generate record-breaking profit margins. With over 1,500 ounces in the first month alone, projections began circulating that the Elbow Cut could yield upwards of 5,000 ounces by the end of the season, more than half his initial goal from just one claim. Investors and fans alike watched with breathless anticipation as the season progressed, and Parker's name once again dominated conversations in both mining circles and pop culture discussions. This wasn't just a win for Parker. It was a vindication of years of hard work, risk-taking, and an unwavering belief in his own instincts. The Elbow Cut had transformed from a high-risk gamble into a career-defining triumph, a golden reward that would be remembered as one of the most extraordinary moments in the history of Gold Rush. The ripple effect of Parker Schnabel's unprecedented gold strike reached far beyond the borders of the Klondike and into the broader consciousness of the mining world. Online communities erupted with fascination, dissecting every second of the televised footage and speculating about the true extent of the deposit. Some armchair geologists attempted to reverse engineer the site's coordinates using drone footage and topographical clues from the show, while others debated whether Parker had tapped into a unique glacial deposit or a long-lost tributary rich in untouched placer gold. Videos comparing Parker's strike to historical mining booms began circulating on YouTube, elevating his find to near-legendary status. Even those outside the traditional mining fanbase were captivated, drawn in by the story of a young man who had beaten the odds in one of the harshest professions imaginable. The site itself became something of a pilgrimage destination. Miners from surrounding regions and even a few international professionals made discreet visits, eager to glimpse the operation firsthand. While many were drawn by curiosity, Some sought insights that could inform their own strategies. Parker, aware of the attention but ever guarded, allowed only select outsiders into the inner workings of his operation. One of the most surprising visits came from Tony Beets, Parker's grizzled competitor known for his no-nonsense demeanor and occasional gruff critiques. Caught on camera standing over one of Parker's record-breaking cleanouts, Tony gave a rare nod of respect, a moment that didn't go unnoticed by fans who had watched the two butt heads over the years. That silent gesture spoke volumes in the mining world, where respect is hard-earned and rarely given lightly. Despite the glory, the reality of Parker's position was far from easy. The weight of expectation was heavier than ever. With a high yield, claim came equally high stakes. Every day of operation had to be maximized, every delay potentially costing tens of thousands of dollars. Parker began working around the clock, rotating shifts with precision and overseeing nearly every stage of production. In parallel, he was deeply immersed in the financial strategy required to protect and grow his windfall. Consulting with advisors, he analyzed market trends and hedging strategies. Rather than liquidate the entire haul immediately, he chose to bank a significant portion, betting on rising gold prices fueled by economic instability worldwide. The decision was risky, but Parker was no stranger to calculated gambles. His reinvestment into the team marked another evolution in his approach. Where he was once seen as a taskmaster, Parker now demonstrated a maturity that balanced discipline with reward. He upgraded living quarters to include better heating, private spaces, and communal areas to boost morale during the grueling Yukon nights. Bonuses were distributed across departments, and veteran crew members were given added responsibilities and decision-making power. These changes didn't go unnoticed. In postseason interviews, several team members spoke about a renewed sense of loyalty and purpose. Parker had become not just a boss, but a respected leader. The discovery at the elbow cut didn't just shift Parker's standing in the gold mining world, it redefined it. He had reached a new summit, not merely as a prospector chasing fortune, but as a pioneer who had carved his name into the rugged heart of the North. The impact of Parker Schnabel's strike at the elbow cut rippled far beyond the mining world and into popular culture, transforming Gold Rush from a long-running reality show into a cultural moment. Ratings surged to levels not seen in years, driven by a wave of new viewers intrigued by the unfolding drama of real-life fortune. Longtime fans returned, reinvigorated by the energy of a narrative that felt like history in the making. Social media platforms became digital campfires where users dissected each episode, posted reaction videos to weigh-ins, and theorized about where Parker might strike next. YouTube creators specializing in gold mining or reality TV churned out daily updates, while TikTok feeds overflowed with highlight reels and sped-up clips of gold being sluiced, cleaned, and weighed. Some content creators even traveled to the Yukon to film reaction pieces near Parker's site, feeding the growing phenomenon. The virality of the discovery reached a point where Parker Schnabel trended multiple times on Twitter and Instagram, often accompanied by graphics showing him mid-clean-out, layered with text like Gold King of the North or Modern-Day Midas. Yet even as his fame soared to new heights, Parker maintained a composed and grounded presence. In his trademark flannel and baseball cap, he used the show's confessional segments to temper the euphoria. He reminded viewers that while this strike was undeniably historic, gold mining remained a punishing and unpredictable business. He spoke candidly about the financial and emotional toll the industry exacted from miners, describing past seasons where things went terribly wrong. Flooded sites, failed equipment, and close brushes with bankruptcy. His willingness to talk about these hardships made the triumph feel even more authentic, giving the audience a fuller picture of the blood, sweat, and stress behind each ounce of gold. It also solidified his appeal not just as a skilled miner, but as a deeply relatable figure, someone who had struggled, stumbled, and still refused to back down. What set this discovery apart was how it reframed the scientific understanding of the area's mining potential. Once dismissed claims surrounding the elbow cut were suddenly under renewed scrutiny. Geologists from universities and private firms reached out to Parker's team with interest in studying the site more closely. Preliminary geological surveys began popping up on academic sites and mining blogs, with some proposing that the Yukon may hold an undiscovered mineral corridor, potentially rich in not just gold, but other valuable resources. Parker, ever the forward thinker, hinted in interviews that he was already planning deeper excavations and had quietly purchased adjacent land in case the deposit extended further than anticipated. The idea of a spin-off show centered on the elbow cut's development gained serious traction, with Discovery executives reportedly greenlighting early production stages based on overwhelming fan interest. The finale of the season crystallized everything the audience had witnessed. As Parker stood beside his team, a stunning panorama of stacked gold bars shimmering behind them, there was a palpable sense of catharsis. The fatigue and sacrifice etched into their faces had been met with a reward unlike anything they had imagined. When Parker turned to the camera and delivered his now famous closing line, "This is what happens when you refuse to quit," it wasn't just a catchphrase. It was the articulation of a truth that resonated well beyond gold mining. His voice was steady but charged with emotion, and his expression held the quiet gravitas of a man who had fought hard for every inch of success. That image, Parker standing, triumphant, not boastful but resolute, became one of the most iconic frames in the show's history. It symbolized not only the climax of an extraordinary season, but also the enduring power of grit, vision, and belief in one's path. The ripple effect of Parker Schnabel's triumph extended far beyond the Yukon, seeping into the collective consciousness of audiences across the globe. That now iconic moment, his declaration, "This is what happens when you refuse to quit," was replayed countless times across social media. Almost instantly, it transcended the television screen, morphing into a rallying cry for people facing their own uphill battles. Within hours of the finale's airing, motivational videos pairing the clip with soaring orchestral music or slow-motion footage of athletes, entrepreneurs, and students were trending on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Popular content creators added their own spin to the clip, sharing stories of their personal struggles and triumphs under the banner of Parker's words. In many ways, he had unknowingly sparked a movement, one rooted in authenticity, hard work, and the quiet strength of persistence. Major influencers across industries, from tech CEOs to fitness gurus, began referencing Parker's quote as a mantra. It appeared in tweet threads dissecting startup culture, in business newsletters exploring leadership under pressure, and even in sermon notes used by life coaches and pastors. It wasn't long before print-on-demand companies picked up on the cultural moment, churning out merchandise emblazoned with "Refuse to Quit" in bold letters. Hoodies, mugs, posters, and wall art popped up on Etsy and Amazon, often accompanied by stylized illustrations of Parker standing next to the gold bars or silhouetted against a Yukon sunrise. In gyms and co-working spaces, the phrase appeared on murals and whiteboards. Parker had become, in the eyes of many, more than a miner. He was now an embodiment of the grit it takes to pursue a goal when the odds are stacked high and the path is treacherous. In academic and professional circles, Parker's story quickly gained traction as a real-world example of strategic thinking and emotional resilience. Business professors incorporated his journey into lectures about leadership styles, risk assessment, and crisis management. Case studies were drafted analyzing how he balanced intuition with analytics, how he invested in his team, and how he maintained morale under extreme stress. Even supply chain and logistics experts praised the way he adapted to adverse conditions, juggling broken equipment, tight timelines, and volatile gold prices to execute a successful season. His evolution from a hot-headed teenager to a composed, disciplined leader served as a powerful reminder that leadership is not static. It is forged through hardship and maturity. For loyal viewers of Gold Rush, Parker Schnabel's triumph at the elbow cut wasn't just another milestone in a gold mining show. It was the emotional crescendo of a journey they had been invested in for more than a decade. From the moment Parker stepped into the mining spotlight as a determined teenager trying to fill the boots of his grandfather, the legendary John Schnabel, audiences saw something special in him. He was raw, intense, and at times reckless, but undeniably driven. Season after season, they watched him evolve through heartbreak, failure, small wins, and painful lessons. The show wasn't just documenting a gold haul, it was chronicling the shaping of a man under extraordinary pressure. Parker's struggles resonated because they reflected real-life challenges, stepping into responsibility before one feels ready, chasing a dream when resources are limited, and persevering when doubt creeps in. He was constantly fighting external battles, equipment breakdowns, harsh weather, crew tensions, and budget constraints, while also wrestling with internal conflicts about legacy, leadership, and identity. Viewers saw him grieve and honor his grandfather's memory, battle burnout, and question whether the sacrifices he made were truly worth the gold he pursued. These weren't just TV moments. They were deeply human experiences, and audiences connected with that vulnerability. Over time, Parker became more than a miner to fans. He became a symbol of tenacity, someone who kept pushing forward when quitting would have been easier. So, when Parker struck gold at the elbow cut, an unprecedented discovery that defied even the most optimistic expectations, it felt like a victory for everyone who had been part of his story from the beginning. Fans who remembered the early seasons, who had watched him struggle to assert his leadership and earn the respect of older, more experienced miners, felt like they had a stake in that success. It wasn't just about the sheer volume or purity of gold, it was about what that gold represented. Years of blood, sweat, and sleepless nights finally paying off. The footage of Parker and his crew standing before the mountain of gleaming gold was more than a television spectacle. It was a cathartic moment, a collective exhale of emotion that had been building over years of highs and lows. Season 15, in many ways, became a defining moment for Gold Rush itself. What began as a series focused on the mechanics and risks of gold mining had matured into a narrative of endurance, growth, and emotional authenticity. The elbow cut discovery provided a powerful, almost poetic payoff to a storyline that had been developing for over a decade. Longtime fans who had once tuned in to watch machinery dig through dirt now found themselves drawn to the personal arcs of the people behind the excavators, and no arc was more compelling than Parker's. His relentless pursuit, often bordering on obsession, was finally vindicated. The gold wasn't just physical wealth, it was symbolic proof that perseverance matters, that dreams pursued with relentless intensity can indeed manifest in reality. And perhaps that is why this moment resonated so deeply and widely. Parker's success was not gifted or accidental. It was earned through thousands of hours of toil, through risk and failure, and the kind of leadership that grows not from authority, but from hard-won trust and resilience. Viewers weren't just witnessing a mining milestone, they were witnessing a coming-of-age triumph. In a world increasingly hungry for real stories of grit and success without shortcuts, Parker's journey stood out. His discovery inspired not just admiration, but reflection. It reminded people that while the path to success is often grueling, it can culminate in moments of undeniable, life-affirming glory. For Parker Schnabel and for the millions who have followed him, the elbow cut wasn't just a place on a map. It became a monument to everything that Gold Rush stands for.